Welcome to Controller Ready Navigation. By the end of the video, we'll have achieved something simple but important, which is that if we start the game from main menu and play the game, I'm going to use only the gamepad now. If I hit the A button on the gamepad, the start button takes us into the game, and if I hit the back button on the gamepad, we can actually quit the game. So that they're an important couple of things to be able to do, is to be able to navigate the game by shortcuts and keyboard presses. So see you in there. So whether we're targeting our game for the consoles or for Mac/PC, we're going to want controller support. Here's a Steam store page, and you'll notice there's a load of little cards on here, and one of those is for full controller support. We want to get that full controller support all the time that we're making a game that is suitable for a controller. Maybe not some types of strategy game, but certainly a game like this, you'd expect the controller to work. And if somebody runs Steam in, say, big picture mode, we want to make sure that in this mode, they can sit on their sofa from this point and navigate Steam through their library to your game. And when they get there, you see that badge on the DG2 above the tick sign? There's a controller badge. There's a keyboard badge there on Call of the Starseed. There's a keyboard badge on Lunar Flight. And if I try and load Lunar Flight, look, I get this horrible warning, keyboard mouse focused game. We don't want that in a game that is perfectly capable of running on a controller. So we need to, from the beginning, be thinking about making sure that we support controllers properly. So let's do that. Let's go into our project, to the main menu. If we play the main menu, at the moment, the controller can't select the start button. And indeed, the start button doesn't do anything. So let's start by giving the start button some functionality. That's relatively simple. We go to the main menu, blueprint. You click on the start button. It wants to be bold in your hierarchy of your main menu blueprint, which means that it is variable. If you turn off is variable, it's no longer interactable. Once is variable is on, which it will be by default for a button, then you go down to the on clicked events and you click plus. So you're adding an event. Now what's going to happen when I release the mouse button is that we're going to switch from the designer tab at the top right of the screen automatically into the graph for this particular widget blueprint. There we go. So we're just there. We were in designer, we're now in graph. Okay, so I'm going to get rid of these unnecessary events to keep the screen clean, and I'm going to tell the system what we want to do when we click the start button. We're doing this in Blueprint because it's very much a designer's job and it's simple UI programming. What we're going to do is we're going to want to open a level. So if you do a search for open, and we're going to reference the level by string, unfortunately, which is the battleground. So I'm going to go and copy the word battleground, paste it in here. This blueprint widget here will automatically convert this battleground string into an F name, and we'll be good to go. So let's try it. Let's make sure that playing allows us to load a level. Woohoo! For the first time, we have loaded a level. Now, we have some issues. Firstly, if we were on this menu here and we try and hit start with the mouse button, it's not going to work. And that's because we haven't told this start button that we want it to be selected on loading of this widget. Okay, there's nothing making the start button actually ready to go. So how are we going to do that? Where would we put this code? It's a bit tricky because in the main menu blueprint, we want to do it, but on what event? You know, this is bound to the main menu. Whenever you load up the main menu screen, you want to make that start button selected, but there's no event to do that. So let's create a custom event. And this custom event is going to be called widget ready. Okay, so I did that by right-clicking in the widget main menu blueprint graph, adding an event, and then saying add custom event. So we're going to have a widget ready event. Now, what's going to fire the widget ready event? Well, we're going to go to the level blueprint for the main menu. And it already does some stuff, right? Setting up the UI. And the last thing it wants to do when it's finished creating the blueprint, adding it to the viewport, etc., making the mouse visible, is it wants to go ahead and say, well, actually, now the widget is ready. So the place to get the reference for that is from the main menu blueprint widget, because it is the main menu blueprint where we created this custom event. So if I move these other guys up a little bit to make some room, then we can take the reference of the main menu blueprint and we can find this ready event, widget ready. And we'll fire that event when we have finished setting up the rest of the UI. Okay, so this will do for now. This means that once the mouse cursor is shown, we then pass execution over to here. Now, the reason my compile has failed is simply because on the main menu blueprint, I didn't compile this. So back at the main menu blueprint, execution has passed here. What do we do? This is where we're going to talk about the input modes. Once the widget is ready, let's have a look. Do a search for UI, and you'll see one of the options here is to set input mode UI only. Well, we're on a menu, so we only need to be in UI. There's also the option of game and UI. Now, this basically depends what the mouse does when it's moved. If you're in a strategy game, you may want game and UI, because as you move your mouse around, it would actually move a cursor. If you wanted to, say, rotate the map with your mouse, you'd have to hold a mouse key down. Whereas UI only, it's going to assume that as you move the mouse around, that you want that to actually just show a mouse cursor and move around the screen. All right. There's also a game only, which we'll use in the tank game. But for the moment, we want set input mode UI only. It's going to ask some questions or ask for some references. It's going to ask for a player controller. So let's go and get that. Get player controller so that it knows where to get the mouse from. And it's also going to want to know what widget you want me to focus. Now, this is the thing. We grab the start menu from the variables part of the My Blueprint tab and drop it in. Get the reference and drop it into there. So what this means now is that once the widget is ready, we're going to set the input to UI only. Let's see if it works. And yes, I hit the A button and we came into the game. Let's show that again. We're there. We could hit the return button on the keyboard or the A button on an Xbox 360 controller and we go into the game. So that is the first step towards us getting ourselves ready for controller support. I think the second thing we want to do is to just make sure we can get out of the game as well, and then at least we can start and quit the game, right? So where would we organize to be able to get out of the game? Well, we would be in the Battleground game itself. So let's go to Battleground. We're going to need to bind some input. I'll do that with you. And then I'll challenge you to just get the tiny bit of blueprint going. It's going to be an action mapping for an action called quit. Or it could be quit menu in future, but quit for now. We'll use, say, the escape key. And I'm going to use the gamepad's special left button, which in the case of an Xbox 360 is the back button, and the forward would be special right. Sorry, start would be special right. Anyway, special left is the back button. So now we have a quit action. All right, now this is an aspect of, this applies to the whole Battleground level. So we open the level blueprint, and it's in here that you need to go find that event and make sure that we actually quit the game when that happens. So that's what I want you to pause the video and have a go at doing. Look and see if you can find that action we just created, and then call the quit game node and test to see that you can quit the game by hitting the back button on the controller. Go ahead, pause the video and do that now. Welcome back. So this is relatively simple. If we look for the quit game event, action event there, when quit game is pressed, we want to quit the game. Now, of course, you'd really put a menu in between, but we'll do that later. We don't need to do anything else. That's it. We just compile that, play the game, and if we hit the back button on the controller, the game immediately quits. That's great. Now, we'll see that in a little bit more detail when we compile and actually build for a proper PC executable in a moment and make sure that we can get through the full game loop, simple as it is, without touching the mouse and keyboard. So, we'll see you there.